Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Another one of our EKN Debrief podcasts here on the EKN Radio Network. My name is Rob Howden, joined by David Cole for episode number 18, March the 7th. Just a couple days past the Superkarts USA Pro Tour opener at the Winter Nationals, round number 1 and 2, essentially, of the Pro Tour this year, NOLA Motorsports Park. And we will be going into what I think will be a pretty interesting debrief, as David and I will break down some of the action. There's a lot of great racing. There was some controversy as well in terms of rough driving. We'll talk a bit about that. There's going to be, I think, a lot of things happening over the next couple of months before we head to the Spring Nationals. Again, welcome to everyone listening here on the EKN Radio Network. The podcast really starting to get things rolling, kind of starting to take root. We got a lot of different people listening in, better numbers, even increased numbers. Thank you for that. And of course, if you are tuning on iTunes, do us a favor. Make sure you leave a comment. Rate us, do whatever you got to do. We want to get more people listening to the broadcast. It's been great so far. And again, these debrief podcasts focus strictly on one particular event. Of course, David and I at the SCUSA Winter Nationals this past weekend. This week's show brought to you by Rawlison Performance Group. RPG is a leading race team in North American karting and one that focuses heavily on driver development and hands-on coaching. We race to win. In 2018, Rawlison Performance Group will be running the SCUSA Pro Tour, the California Pro Kart Challenge, the Can-Am Karting Challenge, and of course, the SCUSA Super Nationals. At the Winter Nationals, they took home 2 wins, 7 podiums, and 13 top 5 finishes. When you decide you're ready to succeed, call the Rawlison Performance Group. Visit us online at rawlisonperformancegroup.com and follow us on social media. All right, David, there's the intro. Time to bring you in, my friend, David Cole. Are you rested up? It was a good weekend at New Orleans.
It was a good weekend. It was hard to get there and a little tiring coming back home, but
let's talk about that. I got them. Let's talk about that. It was easy for me to get there. Direct flight from Toronto, cruised in, all good. Getting ready to pick you up at the airport. Not so much David Cole going through Detroit.
Yeah, the weather system just kind of anchored down in Detroit and got well over probably 6 inches of snow in 14 hours. And it was just kind of a whiteout. And so they grounded me before I could even leave Grand Rapids to go to Detroit, which thinking, I'd rather go to Detroit than Atlanta or Minneapolis, thinking it'd be nice and easy. Well, it wasn't. So got stuck there overnight Thursday after multiple changes in flights and rebookings to different airlines, and finally got on a flight Friday morning for NOLA. So it was good to get there.
You know what? I was thinking about you when you were not there. Of course, I'm by myself on Thursday night. I had dinner. I'm like, yeah, Dave's just going to get a hotel and hook back up. And no, you're Delta. So they put you on United. So you got to go to a different terminal, check back out. Then United gets you back. You end up coming back over to Delta. Dude, you put some miles on the running shoes for that weekend.
Yeah,
for that day.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. And the people that I talked with, a lot of the gate agents and check-in people were very nice. And one thing that's different from us traveling is that, yeah, we want to get there, but it's not a necessity for me to be there Thursday night, say Friday morning, because it's not like I'm going on a vacation where I got $2,000 booked into a cruise or, all these other people who are really in need of traveling and losing money by not getting in their flight. So it's a little bit more relaxing. It allows me to do some people watching, which was fun.
Yeah, true enough. It's, we get there when we get there. Luckily, you were able to get there early enough that I didn't have to go solo on the happy hour. That was always nice to have you producing that. So I do appreciate you getting in at least sometime in the morning. Now, David, you were able to wait as well because you went from the 6 inches of snow to what eventually was absolutely gorgeous weather in New Orleans. We've had a lot of humidity before, and not even humidity. Sunny, low 70s every day, almost perfect weather for the race.
It was, a little bit of wind, and that was kind of the only downside to it because one, we were outside, we were in the elements, we weren't in the scoring tower, as they had a number of staff members in there, so it kind of filled up quickly. So being in the shade was not a good deal when the wind was strong and blew through that area right at us, and it was, as you said, you couldn't feel your ribs because you were shattering so hard.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, we were, again, as David said, we were outside in what we call the Cooper Tire Broadcast Center. We were outside up on a great perch. We could see so much of the racetrack. It was fantastic. But we were probably the only people at the actual venue who were cold because everybody else they're all out in the sun. Yeah, there's breeze, but they're in the sun. It's beautiful. Of course, the SCUSA staff's inside, nice and warm in there, actually almost too warm. And you and I are out there in the shade with the wind blistering at us, wearing shorts like dummies. I should have had my pants on. And I'm telling you, my ribs were so sore from shivering. It was, I felt like an idiot saying on the PA, and everybody else was out there, shorts and t-shirts, like, this is a gorgeous day. And you and I are up top, totally covered in our sweatshirts, absolutely freezing. It was,
it reminded me of Vegas because, you have those nights where, sun sets down and, it was warm in the sun all day long. And then once that sun sets down, it's time to bundle back up. And so, it was different.
Yeah, but we didn't have it at Vegas. We're wearing pants, or we bring pants. We got gloves. We got the whatever you want to call it, toque, toboggan, beanie. We're wearing something on our hats to keep us warm. I just wasn't ready for it. It was cold.
I think you're just a pansy.
I'm from Canada. Right. I'm by no means a weather pansy. Let's talk numbers, as we always do off the top of these debrief podcasts. Again, a big welcome to everyone listening live here on the EKN Radio Network. Of course, this podcast will be put on iTunes and Podbean down the line. David, pretty strong turnout for the start of the 2018 season, and a drop of I think it was 9 people from 2017 to 2018, 221 last year, 212 this year. There was a drop in stock Honda numbers as we kind of expected. There's a bit of uncertainty in what's going to happen in terms of the SCUSA shifter package for the future. I think we know what's coming. The IAME 175 SCUSA spec engine that they're putting together that has been designed for longevity. That's coming down the pipe. People just don't really quite know when. But Dave, I think another factor probably was the fact that there was the Winter Series as well. There's a bunch of people that went and ran the Winter Series. They maybe spent some money on the Winter Series. That's what they used to dial things in as opposed to going to round number 1. And again, as we break down the numbers, you're going to see that there are some classes that were up, some classes that were down. Overall, IAME was up. Overall, Honda was down. But to start the season, anytime you're over 200, you and I have always said that's that high water mark. Anything over 200, that's a major.
For sure, it's a major. It was a major event, and I think you're right in kind of the Winter Series. Some people went to the Winter Series and didn't come to NOLA. I think micro was one of those categories where we saw bigger numbers in micro at the Winter Series compared to what we saw in NOLA with just 13. But also the fact of graduating drivers. We had some micros moving up to mini. We had mini drivers moving into junior, and then junior drivers moving into senior. So you always have to remember that graduation factor when looking at the numbers, and we haven't actually broken those down bit by bit, but especially in the junior category, that increase from 37 to 50 had to do a lot with a lot of those mini drivers moving up.
Yeah, we look at the numbers, a little less in micro, 17 down to 13. A little less in mini Swift, which is surprising. That's usually the strongest category. 41 down to 33. 37 up to 50, as you said, in junior. Normally SCUSA will go past. Normally they're always ready for 10% withdrawal. Guys will cancel at the last minute. So they want 44, but it's always smart to go to 50 or 48 because you're going to get a handful of guys that are going to cancel last minute. They had none of that this particular weekend, and I think you had a couple of walk-ups, ended up with 50. One up in X30 senior, 43 to 44, so a full field in senior. And David, pretty cool for Masters, up 23 drivers in the Masters category. You and I both love Masters. These are the guys that aren't going to try to go to cars next year. So there's stability in Masters racing and always good racing on track. And to see 23, almost 24 cars, that's a pretty solid start to the season for X30 Master.
Yeah, we saw a handful of drivers that were making either their Winter Nationals debut or just their Pro Tour debut at all. So, some that came from the Winter Series, some that have only been Super Nationals drivers coming to the Winter Nationals as well. So, that it's good to see that number grow because we're getting more of the 30-something drivers coming back into the sport because there's that range between 20, 25, 30 where you're kind of okay, I'm getting old, but I don't really want to race these young guys.
Well, and the cool thing is I think that Masters racing is cool now. There are guys that'll Travis Irving turns 30, 31, boom, and he's in. It's one of those things. A lot of the pro guys didn't want to go run Master, and they just I'm going to, no, now with, the younger guys getting even younger and a little more hectic, a little crazier in the senior category, I think guys are waiting for that Masters age turn. And I think we'll see more guys coming into that. And you know what? And not surprising, that's why we see Supermaster now at the California Pro Kart Challenge, because there's lots of 45-year-old guys who don't want to run against a flood of 30, 31, 32-year-olds. So in looking at the stock Honda numbers too, David, I think interesting, a really balanced cross-section in terms of the race groups. We had S1 and S2 racing together, 14 each. We had Supermaster or S4 Master and Supermaster racing together, 10 and 11. Looking at numbers, 14 in S1, so they go up one. Not bad. Up one in S4 Master and down 5 in Supermaster. But overall, the big hit came in S2. Last year, we had 26 drivers in the S2 category, even more as we went along. Summer Nationals had a lot of S2s. Only 14 here this weekend. I think that's maybe a topic for down the line when you and I sit down and discuss what's going on with shifter kart racing here in the U.S. But a 12 driver drop from last year in S2. I think that's telling on what's happening here with stock Honda racing.
Well, we had, I think, 5 guys from S2 moved to S1. So I think that was a big impact right there. And then you get a handful of drivers that were there last year that just didn't show up this year. But like you said, the reason we're not getting new drivers into it is because of the question of when is SCUSA going to change? And a lot of people and how, and people weren't interested in spending quality dollars into this racing season. I don't think, unless they already had the packages ready to go. So that's kind of where we are right now with that program.
I think you're bang on. I think if SCUSA were to come out and say, here's what we're doing over the next 3 years, this class is bringing in the IME 175. You guys are staying with the stock Honda for 3 more years. A guy can say, you know what? Yeah, there's some good packages I can buy. I can drop 3,000, 4,000, boom, I'm in. Knowing that I can run it and amortize it over 3 years. I think you're right, Dave. That's a good point. And again, a topic of another podcast coming up. Overall, IME entries up 6, Honda entries down 15. For a net loss of 9 drivers. Not bad. I think all in all, again, a dozen over top of the 200 mark, which you and I have always set as a kind of a major number. Once you're over there, that's that major. So all in all, Pro Tour off to a good start.
No, we were bang on. No, and I didn't want to go further because we got a lot to talk about, so that we can save it for some other podcasts.
All right. Good. Exactly. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we're underway. Podcast number 18 here on the EKN Radio Network. David Cole and I breaking down last weekend's SuperKarts USA Winter Nationals from NOLA Motorsports Park. Stay with us. We're going to hit the paddock pass, talk about what the buzz was within the paddock when we get back after this break. From coast to coast, IAME has become the two-cycle engine of choice for American karting. Starting with the air-cooled 60cc Swift engine and moving through to the incredible X30 power plant, IAME is providing much-needed stability for the sport. The Swift and X30 engines are the backbone of the SuperKarts USA Pro Tour and Pro Kart Challenge Series, as well as the US PKS, the Route 66 Sprint Series, and the WKA Manufacturers Cup. We're thrilled to introduce the new IAME KA100 Rejet engine with a special introductory price of just $16.95 until the end of February. The new engine is getting rave reviews and will be part of the USPKS, Route 66, and WKA Man Cup programs in 2018. Watch for more regions of the country to get on board with this new formula. We have 2 distribution centers in the U.S. to serve you well. IAME East in Mooresville, North Carolina, and IAME West in Temecula, California. The momentum is continuing to build, so it's time to make an investment in stabilizing your engine program. For more information on IAME, head to the website for your region, IAMEUSAEast.com or IAMEUSAWest.com. Since 2003, K1 Race Gear has been a one-stop shop for all your indoor and outdoor karting needs. From racing shoes, suits, and driving gloves to chest protectors, rib vests, accessories, and bags, K1 Race Gear provides quality karting products for the enthusiast and the professional alike. We have an incredible lineup of K1 karting suits designed to fit everyone's budget. Check out our entry-level GK2, the new Apex 2, and our top-of-the-line Speed 1 suit. Then, choose from our Apex and RS1 karting gloves and add in our K1 shoes, rib protectors, and neck collars. If you need a custom suit to support your sponsors, we can create a custom look as unique as you are. As you would expect, our custom suits are made to order. With pricing as low as $495, you're sure to find a suit that not only satisfies your racing needs, but is easy on the wallet as well. We take care of all of our customers at K1 Race Gear, not just the ones with deep pockets. Visit K1RaceGear.com today and get everything you need for your next racing season.
For over a century, Briggs & Stratton has had a commitment and passion for racing. It's a DNA found in every engine we build today. So whether you kart race, Baja, race quarter midgets, or believe that dirt and snow are just God's way of adding to the challenge, the dedicated spirit of every Briggs & Stratton employee stands at the fence waiting for the green flag to drop. Briggs & Stratton Racing. What powers you?
Welcome back to the EKN Debrief, episode number 13, March the 7th. David will probably get this thing out on Thursday, I would expect, Thursday or Friday, hopefully Thursday. We're going to roll now into the Paddock Pass, presented by the Alan Rudolph Racing Academy. David, Paddock Pass, not surprising, a lot of buzz happening. Start of the season, a lot of things happening within the sports, a lot of things happening within the industry, some competition, of course, between kind of spec programs. I think one of the big things in terms of news that came out, obviously, when I was told to announce the confirmation that the SuperKarts USA Spring Nationals, rounds 3 and 4 of the Pro Tour, being moved from Sonoma to the Phoenix Kart Racing Association track in Glendale, Arizona. I think some people would love to have been at Sonoma, but I understand the business model behind moving it to Phoenix. I think you probably do as well.
Well, that was the first question that everybody fielded, at least me and you, when we walked around Friday was, so are they moving to Phoenix? Are they moving to Phoenix? And until we were told by Tom Kutcher on Sunday, we had no confirmation whatsoever of that happening. Obviously, there were rumors going around, just like it does every day in the sport. And, this one happened to be true. And like, as you said, it was, everybody knew it. It just wasn't official until Sunday afternoon. But, the move, it's not a big move in terms of, we've been there. We've been to Phoenix already. In Sonoma, it was, even though we love that racetrack, it seemed like it was a very difficult facility to have a Pro Tour at, especially now with the numbers that we're at right now. When the first ever Pro Tour race took part at Sonoma, it was under 100 drivers. Now we're over 200 drivers, and it seemed like we didn't see everybody when we were in Sonoma because the paddock was just so spread out, and it's kind of all over the place. And obviously, time-wise, we didn't have a lot of time to go see people. But with Phoenix, that everybody's going to have space. There's plenty of parking. Airport's easy to get to. It's not an hour away from the airport, so that's another plus as well too. For a lot of the West Coast teams, it's still not that far of a drive unless you're from NorCal. But overall, it's what they elected to do. There's obviously pros and cons to it. Personally, I would have liked to have seen it stay at Sonoma just because that's where it was announced. But obviously, business relationships didn't allow that to happen.
Yeah, Dave, I think when you're looking at positives, it's going to be a lot better for a bunch of guys. Anybody coming from Texas, from Florida, from the Midwest, you're cutting off tons and tons of time in terms of travel and fuel. It's as simple as that. The NorCal guys don't get that one race where they travel, half an hour or two. That happens. The race, there's been racing at both. You're right. Well, when Scusa decided to go to Sonoma in the first place last year, we were all surprised. It was an absolute battle to try to, because they had to, as we all know, had to pour into essentially the parking lot of all the shops that are actually at the track there, and that was, I think, a battle in terms of logistics and having to figure out. People were moving trailers so we could get trailers in. To be honest, Sonoma simply isn't set up to run a national race like a Pro Tour. You need 150 max probably for that facility. I think we all know that. But that's just trying to spin the positive. Bottom line is it's kind of that battle between SCUSA and IAME and the Rock Cup program. Rock Cup goes into Sonoma and signs an exclusive deal where it's going to be all Rock Cup competition there from now on. And you know what? I understand that SCUSA says, you know what? We're not going to come in here and roll out the red carpet for all the testing and make the money up there. We're going to go somewhere where we're wanted. So, I get it. I understand that feeling for sure. Phoenix, hey, bottom line is it's where the Supercarts USA Pro Moto Tour first started in 1999. It really is, to a certain extent, that kind of spiritual deal where, man, it all started. The big first pro tour for SCUSA started at Phoenix. And, you look at some of the guys that raced there who are still racing or still involved now. So I personally like the track, Phoenix. We all love going there. It's as long as they run I think if they run it in the right direction, David, you and I have talked about that. We got to run clockwise. You have to run clockwise. That's the way to do it, in my opinion, and yours as well, I know. So if that's what they do, and we go there, and they know, SCUSA's wanted there. I love going to Phoenix. Great food, great people, great track.
I don't think the direction will be a question. I think we learned from going the opposite direction that we normally go when we go there. It looked like a great track to drive by yourself, but racing wise, it just caused too many problems. And the normal way that the clockwise direction that we go there, I think it's still one of the great tracks to watch racing at, especially going into Daytona at the end of the straightaway. Even the kink coming onto the straightaway provides a little bit of a challenge, and then you got turns 11 and 12 there to coming to the start finish line or the finish line. Provides great last lap drama for any of the categories. So we're going to see great racing there no matter what.
Agreed. All right, we'll put that behind us. Spring Nationals, I think it's the 4th, 5th, and 6th of May. We're going back to Phoenix. Now, obviously, David, another big one. We'll get through this really quick. Actually, probably won't be very quickly. You and I will talk about this a little bit here. Again, this is the Paddock Pass presented by Al Rudolph Racing Academy. There was a meeting about pushback bumpers. And essentially what happened, we've talked about the chaos we've had on the racetrack. And the bottom line is, and we're working on something for eKarting News, an editorial series on the art of racecraft, because it's just forgotten, at least in the junior categories and the senior categories, which for all intents and purposes, and I have a column I'm working on this, the senior classes now are pretty much just junior plus, because we've got drivers 14 and 15-year-olds in this category that, in my opinion, should still be juniors. So essentially it's junior and junior plus, and we just don't have a lot of racecraft right now. And there's so many reasons why. Not tough enough officiating, coaching aggressive racing, the full width rear bump, the full width bodywork, all the stuff that's happening right now, where there is actually no consequences for driving hard into somebody. We take those rear bumpers off, we're going to solve almost everything. Let's just say that first and foremost. But to lay it out, Tom Kutcher he wanted to get a handful of guys together to talk about pushback bumpers to get their input. That, of course, then immediately tidal waves into probably 10 or 15 team owners in the Prime Power Team tent right in the middle of the paddock. And they have a really frank and serious discussion with essentially a vote on whether or not they're going to go to pushback bumpers. And although it's not been made official yet by Supercarts USA, we're hearing that they will be going to pushback for Phoenix for the Spring Nationals. Now, David, you and I both know that's going to bring some issues of its own, but as it's come so far that right now that Band-Aid needs to be put on. Yes, racecraft can improve and we can pull that Band-Aid back off because it's an easy fix. But David, right now, I think pushback, I'm not a fan of it. I think it can get handled with officiating, aggressive, hardcore officiating. But right now, everybody wants pushback, so let's do pushback. Thoughts?
You said the key word. It's a Band-Aid. Again, I could go on for probably a half hour right now about it. Like you said, removing the bumper is probably the more easier way of handling this, because then again, it puts it back in the driver's hands. If there's no rear bumper like there is right now covering the rear wheels, if you go into somebody hard, you're gonna end up on your head. And
David, or like what's supposed to happen, you lose your front nose cone. If you hit somebody, then you're out. Yeah. Not a drop down, right? If you've hit somebody hard enough to lose your front nose cone, you're out anyways. So
it's it's just frustrating that we've come to a point in the sport to where we're at this. It's frustrating because I've been in it my whole life. You've been in it for over 20 years, and we've seen the evolution of the sport. And unfortunately, while it may be, I agree that bumpers have reduced a number of injuries that we've used to seeing. But it's like you said, it's opened the door for a no holds barred type attitude when it comes to racecraft. And that's just the one thing we got to get rid of right now.
You know what it is, David? Really what it's come down to? It's really become exactly what happens when you go to a high-end rental cart track. When you and your buddies are out there and it's the full width rental, the for hire actual rental race carts with the full width bodywork, all the bodywork all over them, and you're having fun with each other and you're beating on each other. That's what it is right now, because there's zero consequences.
Well, and again, too, it's because the officials are not laying down the law. It's just like this video I saw on social media today. A kid was acting out, and so his dad made him run a mile to school because of the way he was acting. It's called parenting. Sometimes, I hate to say it, but sometimes people are just not parenting their children, and it's not karting. Believe me, it's not karting. It's basketball, it's soccer, it's baseball, it's other traveling programs like that, and sports in general, and just in life in general, where people are not parenting. Instead of being that parent, they're trying to be a best friend, and you can't do that.
Yeah, I hesitate in really putting all the blame on a parent. I made a post on Facebook, as everybody knows, and it's kind of blown up with a lot of discussion. Just I'm making the comparison that if you buy your kid a car at 16 and they wreck the car because they're driving like an as I use the word asshole, you're going to take the car away. If your kid goes out and races like an asshole, you're not taking the go-kart away from the guy, because people think that's the way you need to race right now. Everybody else is doing it, so I need to do it. And I've said this before, and I'll say it here, is I honestly believe that anybody, any race director, me, myself included, if I had the opportunity, could fix this in one day. I could fix this on Saturday, and anybody could have it better by Sunday. You go in, you tell the drivers, if you touch somebody coming to the start-finish line, it's a 20-second penalty. Because we're right at start finish when we're calling these races, and these guys are just pushing each other to the line. The guys in the back are spooling up before we saw guys in the back running in, like driving over top of each other before they got to the start box because they're on the throttle. All you got to say is it's a foot. People try to say foot, 2 feet between. No, you touch the guy in front of you, 20-second penalty. I guarantee Sunday you're not touching the guy. You go into turn number 1. If you touch somebody in turn number 1, 20-second penalty. You get 3 shots at it, and you're out for the day, or you're out for the weekend.
Let's just put it out there. It's not just the kids up front, too. It's the kids in the back who see a wreck, don't get off the gas, and just plow into a wreck that's already there. I mean, that has got to be it was the most insane thing when I was sitting there in turn 1 during that big, massive accident that everybody's blaming the reason why we need pushback bumpers. And I'm thinking to myself, no, because 75% of these kids just ran into the accident already there, rather than, it's not like we're at Vegas. Yeah, okay, now I understand if this happens in Vegas, it happens because we're in a closed off course. As we saw in S1, you hit the grass to get away from it. Yeah, you might spin out, you might go into the tire wall, or you just might lose the field completely, but at least you're still running, and you didn't cause $1,000 worth of damage to your cart because you decided to just pin it down or send it, as everybody keeps talking about. We got to send it.
Yeah. Well, David, here's the thing. Where is it in these kids' mindset that when they see an accident, they're not going to stop. They come out of turn one. You just said it. The track is completely blocked, and these guys are driving directly into the wreck. When they get a car, is that what they're going to do? Are they just going to drive into a wreck? It kind of boggles my mind that they don't either get on the brakes, slow down, or move to the left or right. And you're right. They just drove right through the wreck, somehow thinking that it's Days of Thunder. And once they get there, the car's not going to be there anymore. I was
going to say, they're Cole Trickle, like thinking that there's going to be no cars there. And
it's Harry Hyde.
You can do it, Cole.
It's Harry Hyde. I believe it in my heart.
It's ridiculous.
Anyways, here, listen, you know what? We know it. Next week, we're going to get a podcast going. We're going to get a couple of guys in the sport that want to talk about it. We're going to do a full podcast on racecraft, on just what's happening nowadays. But the bottom line was, David, and you said, you and I could talk about this for hours because it's and most of it, you and I will just be obviously dumbfounded with what's happening on the racetrack because you go to the red flag. There was a red flag yesterday on the weekend in the mini class, and drivers were actually driving through the red flag at speed. If you're a coach or a tuner of that driver, you'd be ashamed of yourself. That you should be telling that kid, you see a red flag, you stop immediately. They drove through a red flag where a kid was upside down at speed. You should be fired and ashamed of yourself. The first thing you teach a child who's racing is when you see a red flag, you stop. They have to know what the flags are. Let's go to yellow flags. What happens when you see a yellow flag? Every club racer, every club race director will tell the kid, slow down, raise your hand. We don't get that in the national tour. Full throttle, no hands up. I'll tell you, I can fix it in a day. Black flag, park it. See you tomorrow. And tomorrow you'll have your hand up and you'll slow down. That's what has to happen here. The kids, you have to scare them. You have to tell them exactly how it's going to be. Anyways, but I digress. Pushback bumpers. Unofficially coming for Phoenix. The discussion on that, of course, will continue for the next 2 months. Let's move to something more exciting, Dave. Let's move to Paddock Pass. Cool stuff. Kart Republic. We talked about it at the Winter Series. Man, these guys are getting a lot of attention. They didn't get the same success as they had at the Winter Series. But Alex Bertagnoli jumping on the chassis as well under the Franklin Motorsports tent. What are your thoughts on more guys picking up the Kart Republic?
Well, it's kind of that new and shiny look. You know what I mean? It's kind of people are drawn to anything that just happens to be. I mean, we've seen it in cadet. A lot of people when Bennett came on board, everybody jumped at Bennett. They left OTK, they left Top Kart, they left Burrell Art. Boom, right to Bennett. So now Bennett has this huge following of cadet racers. And then last year it was kind of Nitro. So we've seen a lot of people move over to Nitro. We haven't had really anything like that in the junior and senior ranks that has kind of been that shiny, glamorous new thing that people want to know about. And so now that Kart Republic has come out, they've shown some great results here in the States. It's kind of brought a lot of attention to it. And obviously with Bertagnoli jumping over on it this weekend, standing on the podium, seeing Santiago Trezzini getting a podium in junior. I'm not necessarily saying it's the reason why they got there, but it definitely helps to be on something new, maybe from some drivers. Maybe they get too compliant with the karts that they've been driving before, and maybe the new switch kind of helps them either learn how to change their driving style, or maybe it just fits their driving style.
I was also going to add in confidence. If they think they're hopping on a kart that should be able to win, there's some confidence potential that could happen. But yeah, I think Kart Republic, shiny and new, and bagging a couple more podiums. Now, another team that was rocking this past weekend was Rollison Performance Group. Stellar weekend, couple of wins, 4 podiums in the S2 category. Pretty good weekend for Mike Rollison and the crew. Yeah,
Rollison has been honed in on making it a driver development program, and we've seen that over the years, and we've seen that over years, and it's kind of shifted itself towards obviously the single speed programs. But a lot of those guys under that 10 are shifter kart guys. I mean, pretty much all the driver coaches or mechanics or whatever you want to say, those guys are shifter kart drivers at heart, and so now it's good to see them kind of expanding and bringing in some shifter kart drivers, and so that's only growing that program even more. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that team be one of the biggest at the Super Nationals come at the end of the year.
Yeah, you know what? There's obviously a culture of driver development. They've got some great pilots there, great mechanics. And, I'll give a shout out to Hannah Greenmeyer. I'm telling you, what a weekend for Hannah. Rookie in the X30 senior class, fast lap of the race, I think both days, Saturday and Sunday. She was a beast, and really fun to watch her come to the front, making really clean passes, a little bit of contact here and there, which, again, the pushback bumper, the aggressiveness, the racecraft. With racecraft, you could have a little bit of contact every once in a while, and she maybe had a little bit, but otherwise just tremendous. Other drivers or other teams having big weekends. Parolin, what a big day for them on Saturday. Back-to-back wins to start off the day with Caleb Gafera and Mateus Morgado in Micro, Swift, and X30 Junior. That's a pretty solid start to the day for Parolin.
They had the opportunity to win maybe 5 races on the weekend. Grafar obviously in it in Micro both days, Mateus both days in Junior, and then Jace Park, a mini driver, was right there on Carson Morgan, defending champions bumper all race long, and just didn't quite have enough to pull the trigger at the end there. But so that brand, obviously, it's getting like we talked about before, it's expanding big time and showing success really strong in 2018.
Yeah, kudos to Jim Russell Jr. Karting. Of course, Jim's been a big supporter of the Parolin program for a long time. Kind of evolved what he's doing after shutting down Russell Karting Specialties is now Jim Russell Karting, where he's working with a smaller group of drivers, coaching. Here's a guy that's been around the sport forever. And the coaching he's doing with these young drivers is already obviously paying off. Jace Park, Caleb Gaffer, we talked about. Ethan Ayers looking really good. So, again, Parolin just starting to make some moves. And to wrap up this paddock pass, let's hit on the fact that for CRG Nordam, a solid weekend for the new CRG Heron kart. They were very pleased. Their first SCUSA Pro Tour victory with Christian Brooks. So I know that the CRG guys were absolutely ecstatic at the end of the weekend to get that win on the Heron. All right. Let's go to another break here on the EKN Debrief, episode number 17. We get back. David and I are going to start blowing through the race report. We got some stuff to talk about. A lot of great racing from NOLA Motorsports Park. Come on back, and we'll talk about the actual action at the Winter Nationals. Like most everything else, karting has always been big in Texas. But these days, it's just getting better and better. Top quality facilities and tracks, dedicated kart shops, and a pure SuperKarts USA Regional Series with incredible year-end prizes. That's right, it's the Texas Pro Kart Challenge. After making the switch to the pure SCUSA program last year, with a focused class structure that offers stock Honda and Miami categories, the Texas Pro Kart Challenge is primed for their biggest season ever. It's 4 race weekends designed to limit time away from school and work at the finest tracks in the state of Texas. Speed Sports, Denton, Amarillo, and Dallas. The series is dedicated to offering the best program possible, with a national level officiating technical staff, top quality facilities, exciting prizes, and full e-karting news trackside live coverage with play-by-play by me, Rob Howden. Join us at the new Speed Sports Racing Park in Houston for our opener on March 24th and 25th. We're going night racing on June 7th, 8th, and 9th at the iconic Denton facility. It's racing under the lights. Experience the jewel of West Texas, the Amarillo Kart Circuit, on July 20, 21, 22. And then to cap it all off, we head to the Dallas Karting Complex on September 22nd and 23rd at the track that has hosted both the SCUSA Summer Nationals and the Rotax Grand Nationals. You do not want to miss it. It's the best racing in Texas, so come challenge yourself and push it to the next level. For more information, visit TexasProKartChallenge.com. Praga, Formula K, Aero, and now Kart Republic. You can get them all from Kartsport North America. Located in Mooresville, North Carolina, on site at GoPro Motorplex, Kartsport North America features over 6,000 square feet of retail space. We offer full retail sales, kart service and storage, and the top brands in the sport, such as CZ Chain, Talon Sprockets, SKF Bearings, and Prisma Tire Gauges. We are now an importer and distributor for Dio Chiesa's new Kart Republic chassis, a kart that is taking the world by storm. Lorenzo Travasanuto won the SCUSA Winter Series X30 Senior title on a Kart Republic, and our own Brandon Jarzakrak won in his very first weekend on the chassis. Don't get left behind. If you want to take your racing to the next level, we have driver training and coaching programs available trackside at GoPro Motorplex. We have a massive inventory, so head to our online store at www.kartsportna.com to get same-day shipping of the parts and components you need. While you're there, check out our used section of karts, engines, parts, and accessories. Kart Sport North America. Top quality products, winning brands, and professional driver development. Give us a call today. In a sport where the difference between winning and losing is measured in hundredths of a second, you can't afford to leave anything on the table. You invest in the best equipment, the lightest components, and top-of-the-line data acquisition systems. Anything to find one more tenth, right? I'll tell you right now, the best investment you could ever make is in yourself. If you want to improve your results, it's time for professional instruction and coaching at the Alan Rudolph Racing Academy. Located at the new state-of-the-art Speed Sports Racing Park just north of Houston, the Alan Rudolph Racing Academy uses the very best equipment, Burrell Art Karts. They offer half-day, one-day, two-day, and three-day clinics. They have a one-on-one student-to-instructor ratio, and they will design a customized curriculum for each student. Alan Rudolph is one of the most respected people in the sport, and he has nearly 20 years' experience training drivers, including Chase Elliott, Neil Alberico, Austin Versteeg, and Sabre Cook, and rising stars like Pietro Fittipaldi. Train with a champion with almost 30 years of racing experience to get proven results. Start off your season with a driver tune-up. Tune up your season with some driver coaching. Or get ready for the big races by training with the best. Reserve your dates now by calling 866-607-RACE. That's 866-607-7223. For more information, visit speedsportsracingpark.com/racing-academy. Welcome back to episode number 18 of the EKN Debrief here on the EKN Radio Network. Rob Howden alongside David Cole as we now jump into the race report from the opening round of the SuperKarts USA Pro Tour, the Winter Nationals at NOLA Motorsports Park. This segment brought to you by the Mazda Road to Indy, presented by Cooper Tires. David, let's jump in, kind of piggybacks off what we just talked about. X30 Senior, good to have Christian Brooks back. Red Bull Global Rallycross GRC Lights race winner, coming back to karting. Boom, starts the season off with a big win.
Yeah, he came and ran the Winter Nationals last year on a different brand, but had two runner-up finishes and left as the point leader. This year comes in with CRG and Nash Motorsports. Does a phenomenal job as we expected. He would be one of the contenders throughout the weekend, having the experience both at the racetrack and just in X30 Senior alone, was just and was able to finally get that first victory on the Pro Tour, something that we thought could have happened earlier, but just didn't happen until now.
Jake Craig, of course, getting things done with an absolutely master performance as well when he gets the victory on Saturday, then climbs up from almost, I guess, dead last on Sunday after the pre-final DNF and ends up with the 9th position finish. He was a lot of fun to watch. We were watching Brooks out front, but to be honest, a lot of the focus was on Jake coming from the tail of the field. It was just great to see what he was able to do.
Yeah, it's something we've seen before at NOLA. Last year we saw Brandon Jarzakrak come from last, having not starting on or qualifying on pole, not getting out on the grid in time. So it's coming from last and working his way all the way up to the podium in the final. So I think if Craig had maybe a few more laps, he might have had a top 5 even. So it was a great drive for him. So. Yeah. And, him losing the points championship last year by 4 points, that Saturday effort is either going to hurt him or help him, depending on how everything shakes down over the next 2 events.
Yeah, I talked about the fact on the broadcast that that's how you win a championship, not always by your best finishes, but by how good your worst ones are. Like his event on Sunday could have been that for sure drop race. But to fight back as he did from the tail of the field to get ninth in the final, that could be something that gives him an opportunity to still win the championship. Other highlights from X30 Senior, as I said, a fantastic performance by rookie senior Hannah Greenmeyer, 20 spots forward in the Saturday final, and then 25th to 12th in the Sunday pre-final. Impressive. Jorge Pescador, David, though, was pretty impressive, too, on the Praga, running for Kart Sport North America. Came in and really was pretty masterful running up front as one of the leaders all weekend long.
Yeah, he was the top qualifier both days. So we've seen Praga show really well at the NOLA Motorsports Park both years now. Brandon Jarzak last year and this year with Jorge Pescador. It's no surprise with his pedigree, his CV of having a solid resume of strong races and, just one of those drivers that you can always count as one of the contenders going into the weekend. And a podium Saturday and a fourth on Sunday, he may be back in Phoenix, I think, having a shot really right now at the title against maybe Brooks and Craig and others and Lupien even too.
Yeah, I'm just going to mention Lupien, the Canadian driver for Rawlson Performance Group, just quietly consistent. He was right there the whole time. We weren't talking about him leading races or whatever, but Samuel, last year, and in other races, we've seen him be a pretty aggressive driver, kind of gets himself into some issues every once in a while where he's kind of laying on a couple other guys. He was steady, ran well, and really just strong in terms of being in the top five all weekend long. Now, moving to the other end of the spectrum, David, before we cap off for X30 Senior, not the weekend that defending champ Ryan Norberg was looking for.
No, it wasn't. He got caught up in a turn 3 wreck there in the main event on Saturday, so that kind of put a black eye on his weekend. But the kid continues to fight back, as we saw last year. He wasn't quite a dominant driver throughout the year, and fought back to get the title. So he was another kid that fought back on Sunday and came away with a 5th place finish. So don't count him out either too. Just like Craig had a bad day on Saturday or on Sunday, Norberg could, that could be a drop. That Saturday could be his drop. And if he whales off a couple of victories or a couple podiums at the Spring Nationals where he's already won before, that could put him right back in the hunt for a 3rd straight.
As champions do, he'll put that behind him and just move forward. Jumping into X30 Junior, as we talked about in the Paddock Pass, just really rough, terrible starts all weekend long. We had a lot of great contenders up front, but it was just the starts were so rough to watch. Race-wise, Mateus Morgado, as we said, for Pearland getting a win. Tyler Gonzalez scores a victory on the Tony Kart for Speed Concepts Racing. Really, good runs. I like the kind of arrival of Arias Dukmedjian. He has really become a guy I think we're going to be watching all weekend long. Thomas Naveau was there as well. Justin Arsenault was quick. You mentioned Trissini. Just a lot of guys, David, in X30 Junior who I think are kind of working their way. You talk about guys graduating up every category. We had a lot of guys graduate at X30 Junior into senior this year. Here's that group of drivers now that's kind of working their way to the front. It's their time to shine.
It is their time to shine. And it was really interesting to see those Speed Concept Racing drivers up there with Gonzalez and Arsenault and a couple others that I don't think there were any team orders there because there seemed to be a little bit of contact between some of the teammates there throughout the weekend. So it's good to see that kind of, that go for it all type mentality with these young drivers. But again, that mentality kind of leads to kind of some of the bad moves that we saw at the beginning of each race.
Well, that was it. We saw Dukmedjian get hammered off the track over in turn number 3 at one point. Once it all settles down and the talented leaders get out front, the racing's actually pretty solid between them. Yeah, there ends up being a little bit of stuff you don't want to see, but otherwise they race pretty hard and give each other enough room. Now, we'll look for increased racecraft out of them as well, but it's those opening laps that it really were the chaos, and the lack of racecraft seems to make itself most evident. Hard chargers in X30 Junior. Let's give it up for Luca Mars, who was up 34 spots to 13th in one of his races. And Thomas Naveau climbed up 38 positions to 6th on Sunday. David, we talk about driver development. There's nothing better than a kid starting at the tail of the field and having to come to the front. Because you can start from pole, run away to the win, and learn nothing. But when you got to come from the back, keep your car in one piece and stay out of trouble, that's when you really do your learning.
Yeah, we talked about that in the last debrief with Uga Chukwu. So I would love to see some of these guys just, you know what? I'm going to put you in the back, and I want to see you get through the field and not touch anybody. And that really gives you, like you said, more driver development than just going out front and leading the entire race. That proves nothing other than you had a great qualifying setup.
Let's move to X30 Master as we're hammering our way through this edition of the debrief. X30 Master, awesome starts, really good, respectable racing, respectful racing all weekend long, and that's what we expected at X30 Master. The Brazilians were good, Renato David, Paulo Lopez, and of course, you get three-time Supernats winner Leonardo Nienkotter in there, and a lot of fun. Contact on Saturday, though, between Lopez and Nienkotter, take them out, and Jess Peterson rolls through to get his third SCUSA Pro Tour win. I was surprised that those guys didn't settle in and just kind of go to the end. David, were you?
It was a bold move, and we didn't get a chance to talk with Nienkotter at all about it because he was leading the race, and it looked like I think that's how that's how it was going. I forgot, and then Lopez made a deep move into turn 8, I believe, after the S's there with the big launching ramp. And I think it caught both, Nienkotter a little bit off guard. And so it was a bold attempt.
I think it was the other way around.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Nienkotter got
nose
Lopez.
in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Just put his nose in turn number 8, and it just didn't seem like it was there. And again, you and I didn't have the view to see whether or not Lopez came down or Nienkotter. It's not a high percentage place to pass. You got to surprise a guy and be real aggressive in that corner. We saw it happen a lot last year, a couple times this year, but it's not really the high percentage place to make the move. I was surprised that Leonardo did it, but he's such a badass. You know what? If anybody's going to do it, it's probably going to be him. But he comes back on Sunday, David. Travis Irving had a great run on Sunday, did his best, but kind of got hunted down by Nienkotter and was able to get the pass. Irving eventually got a penalty for actually being ahead of Nienkotter at the start. But again, Nienkotter really came back, as champions do, reeled in Irving, but you got to give Irving props as well for an absolutely tremendous race.
Yeah, those two comp carts were on rails, it seemed like. And Lopez was kind of there, trailing, just waiting for something to happen like it did on Saturday to help Peterson take the win. But, the two comp cart drivers, I don't think we're going to let that happen. And Irving, he just, he gutted it out another one, and you could see the kind of frustration of not getting that first victory as they crossed the line with Nienkotter taking the checkered flag.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Todd McCall took it or Ken Johnson took it, but there's a great on-track promotion shot where Nienkotter's got his hands in the air and Irving's got his hands in his head, and it's just that thrill of victory, agony, defeat, ABC Sports thing, right? I saw it, went, oh. Well, that's racing for you right there. Mini Swift, let's jump in there. Jeremy Fletcher and James Agozi on Saturday really putting on a clinic. And we talk a lot about drivers flicking that switch where they understand that, hey, you know what, I don't need to be racing for the lead every lap. All I really have to do is slowly pair myself away in the lead group, and we'll battle it out, whether it's 3 guys pulling away to battle out for the podium positions or it's 2 guys pulling away to battle out for the race win. That's what we saw in the first day of Mini Swift with Jeremy Fletcher and James Agozi. Agozi just put himself on Fletcher's rear bumper, and they just took off. Yep,
and it's kind of a coin flip because I think either one of them could have had the win, and Fletcher was just able to kind of outmuscle Agozi and take his first Pro Tour victory. But it was almost kind of the same thing on Sunday, except Sunday we saw 3 drivers get away.
Yeah, you know what? Carson Morgan, very good. Talk more about Sunday because Sunday was strong. Carson showed his championship pedigree, though. I think he seemed to me to be the calmest of the lead group.
Well, like you just said with Agozi and Fletcher, Jace Park and the Parolin, he just kind of hung on Morgan's bumper the entire race. Anderson, Leonard tucked in behind both of them, and those 3 just, like you said, pushed each other, got away from the rest of the field, and decided, okay, this is going to be our race. And neither of them made any stupid moves throughout the race. And kind of we were anticipating an exciting last lap finish, and it just seemed like Park just didn't really want to pull the trigger. I think he was kind of happy he was in second and just didn't really pull the trigger. But But Leonard came in and just, boom, took it from him.
Yeah, it was interesting. Obviously, Jace has a great race on Saturday. Comes from 32nd back of the pack up to 4th. Feeling real good about it. He just pushes Morgan all around, shows that poise, the maturity. Again, I'm not sure if it was the fact that I'm good with second, or it was how the heck do I get by this guy? Where do I do it? I don't know. I don't think Jace has been in that position at a national before. So, maybe he just kind of froze up because there were spots that he could have maybe made a pass. But then again, Morgan was just stretching away at certain times, maybe, kind of working that gap a little bit. But again, as you said, Anderson Leonard making a good move in the final corner to steal second. But again, Park, bottom line, couple of top 5 finishes for him on the Paralympic. I think overall he'll take this as a huge win and move forward to Phoenix.
Without a doubt, it was kind of like you said, it was kind of a combination of Morgan being really good and Park just being extra cautious not to make that mistake.
All right, let's wrap up this part of the race report. Again, this one brought to you by the Mazda Road to Indy, presented by Cooper Tires with Microswift. Tremendous racing all weekend long. Really, I think I'm hoping these guys keep doing what they're doing, because maybe this could fix the entire thing of racecraft, just because of the fact that the kids in Micro can race so well. If they continue to do it through and don't get the bad habits, we may see the next generation of really classy drivers, because it was just awesome racing. Caleb Gaffera getting the win on Saturday. On Sunday, the closest 3-wide finish in the history of Supercars USA Pro Tour racing. In the 9 years, 33 thousandths of a second separate the top 3 coming across the line. Max Garcia with a couple runner-up finishes, his first Pro Tour podiums after having a really good winter series. Ethan Ayers, third on Saturday, his best finish on the Pro Tour. A kid that's really kind of, I think he's flicked the switch and realizes that he can run up front. So, David, a lot of things about these Microswift guys is when they get that confidence that they can do it, you're going to see it happen more and more. Yeah,
and kind of what you're talking about, the racecraft, I think it's because they don't sit up at the fence and watch the other classes. So hopefully the parents keep these kids away and keep them playing soccer or the video games or just sitting in a cooler, keeping cool or whatever they do. They're 8 to 10-year-olds. They have no idea what they're doing half the time. They're just having fun.
So what you're saying is you get to race and then we lock you in quarantine so you don't get to see anybody else drive like jackasses out on the racetrack. And then when you come out, you drive like a star.
Exactly.
I like it. That's what we're going to do. That's the new plan for 2018.
Yeah.
Quarantining drivers so they can't see how the other guys are running horribly. Okay, we've got
it's like golf. Hold on. It's like golf. Like when you're at the green, do you watch another person putt? Like if you see like Phil Mickelson or somebody like that, I distinctly remember them not watching another player putt because they don't want to, or swing. They just don't want to like learn maybe bad habits that another player has. So maybe this could work in racing.
That's a possibility. One more break in this particular edition of the debrief here on the EKN Radio Network. Stick with us. We got more to come. We're going to wrap up the race report after this.
The 2018 season is just around the corner, and Trinity Karting Group is fired up and ready to take up the challenge. We're a full-service racing operation based at the Motorsports Country Club of Cincinnati, which gives us access to our custom-designed driver training facility. We utilize Tony Kart, OTK, and IANI products, and we're your source for Avinco tires in the Midwest. For 2018, we have Arrive and Drive race programs available for the Supercars USA Winter Series and the Pro Tour, the WK Manufacturers Cup, and of course, the KRA Series at Newcastle Motorsports Park. If you have your own equipment, we can provide the trackside support you need to take your program to the next level. If you're interested in running with a professional team with full support, coaching, and hospitality, give us a call. Trinity Karting Group has a long history in the sport, a winning pedigree, and we're dedicated to driver development. We pride ourselves on our professional approach and our positive attitude. Driver development is a big part of our program, and if your desire is to graduate into Formula Car racing, we are the official karting feeder operation for Team Pelfrey, the championship-winning junior formula squad on the Mazda Road to Indy. If IndyCar is your ultimate goal, we can help pave the way. Let us build a custom race program for you. If you're new to the sport or a seasoned pro, we can take care of your kart racing desires. Give us a call at 513-421-4463 or check us out online at trinitykartinggroup.com.
Looking for that extra edge? Comet Racing Engines is your answer. The engine service program from Comet Kart Sales has been winning from coast to coast at all levels and different forms of the sport. Lead engine builders Mark Harrison and Gary Lawson have decades of karting experience, providing racers the power to reach the top step of the podium. Comet Racing Engines continually perform track and dyno tests to provide their customers with the cutting edge in engine performance. Comet specializes in Yamaha KT100, IAME Swift, IAME X30, IAME Leopard, and Rock engines. Trackside and customer support are the cornerstones of the Comet Racing Engines business, ensuring each and every customer receives personal attention and the help they need to achieve the best results. Engine rentals are available at all the events that Comet attends in 2018, including WKA, SCUSA, USPKS, and the Route 66 Sprint Series. Contact the Comet team today at cometkartsales.com or by calling 317-462-3413. If you're looking to step up your engine program, send it to Comet Racing Engines.
If you want to drive the best, drive a CRG. Our countless race wins and championships prove this fact, including taking the KZ Finals at the SCUSA Super Nationals and the CIK World Championships in both 2016 and 2017. Our material is second to none. After years of independent American importers, CRG is now managed directly by the factory and run out of our state-of-the-art headquarters in Texas. CRG Nordam is the American arm of the CRG factory in Italy, and we're serious about success. We stock a wide variety of parts in all of our chassis, from the CRG Hero for the mini categories, to the Heron for tag race, the Road Rebel for gearbox competition, and the new FS4, which has been designed specifically for American 4-cycle Briggs racing. If you're ready to step up to the national level, do it with a factory race team that competes across the USA. CRG Nordam is a full factory effort with the best personnel and the finest equipment. We're serious about winning, and you should be too.
Welcome back to the EKN Radio Network's Debrief Podcast. Rob Howden and David Cole breaking down the recent SuperKart USA Winter Nationals. David, we got to roll through stock Honda to wrap up the debrief. Let's, again, this race report brought to you by the Mazda Road to Indy, presented by Cooper Tires. Let's move into S1. Kind of felt like we were back at the Summer Nationals 2 years ago when AJ Myers absolutely dominated the action on the TB kart. Again, he did it again here this particular weekend. He was really the guy with consistency and poise and speed all weekend long.
He was, and it was kind of interesting to see that, because in the last few events that we saw him, he just didn't really seem to have that kind of dominant look or confident look. And right out the gate, I mean, he was there, and it seemed like everybody was keying their pace on what he was doing. So, to see Myers bounce back like this and start out the year this strong definitely puts him as a title contender right out the gate.
An issue on Saturday when Jake French launched himself over the turn 2 kind of chicane area, got backwards, was spinning backwards, took out a number of drivers as they were making evasive maneuvers. Danny Formal's off the racetrack, a number of drivers off the racetrack and out of the battle, kind of came down to Austin Garrison with AJ Myers as well. Garrison able to come forward for Formula Works on the comp kart. That's the SoCal comp kart team, Formula Works. What a great weekend they had with both Garrison and Travis Irving. He ends up getting his debut win. The coolest thing about Garrison was he won the S2 championship on the Pro Tour in 2014. So he comes back 4 years later after doing a bunch of tag racing. In his debut, ends up winning at the Winter Nationals. Awesome run for Garrison. Other drivers, of course, David up front. Billy Musgrave was essentially the top challenger to AJ Myers throughout the weekend. A couple of podium finishes for Billy on the Aluminos chassis. And then Nick LeDuc coming forward as well. Last year's Spring Nationals winner coming forward on Sunday for a third-place finish. Like Ryan Norberg not having the best weekend, the defending champion in S1, Jake French, really didn't have a stellar weekend as well. Was able to come back to the podium, but again, tough one for Jake, not really having really the outing I think that he was looking for.
No, this was the first time Jake finished off the podium at a Pro Tour race since the Saturday round of the Summer Nationals in 2016. So that was a long streak for French of being on the podium, and that included the Super Nats, both Super Nats in 2016 and 2017 as well. So, eventually it was going to come. You just didn't know when, and they're going to bounce back because the French, both Jake and his dad Mark, work hard at what they do, and they'll be back for Spring Nats for sure.
Moving into S2, Pedro Lopez for Rawlson Performance Group, perfect at NOLA Motorsports Park in the Winter Nationals. He really was the guy to beat all weekend long in the S2 category. Photo finish with Matt Pesch on Saturday, and then he proceeded to walk away on Sunday. Pesch did get penalized on Sunday after a good finish again for passing under yellow, which dropped him down. But let's give some props to Cameron Egger. I saw him race last year in 206. The boy gets off the couch. I don't think he did any working out, but I'm not sure if he even lost any weight. But, out of the box, comes out with a couple of great finishes. 2 podiums for Cameron Egger. Kid can wheel it, no doubt about that.
Well, he's probably the most experienced S2 driver that was in the field. So, he has a lot of shifter experience. So we kind of knew he was going to be there. We just quite, like you said, we weren't quite sure about his endurance because that 1.1 mile track, I mean, I'm not going to name any names, but it kind of beat up some other people we know that wanted to sit out. So no, I think, I think Egger, with his performance there in NOLA, the Phoenix track, it's going to be hot and it's going to be nasty. And so I think, over the next 2 months, I hope he puts the focus in because he could be a potential winner in Phoenix with the knowledge that he has and the experience he has.
I like that. I like you dropping the hammer like that because I think if Cameron put some focus on, we know, like you said, Dave, long racetrack at NOLA, 20 laps was a distance. I think Phoenix probably more physically demanding, even though everybody told us that NOLA both physically and mentally demanding. 17 different corners. You really had to really be on your game the whole time. I think Phoenix is that challenge of it's going to be hot. We know it's the 1st of May. We could get 85. We could get 105. So it's going to be hot there. Track's going to grip up. It's going to be a test. If Egger can dial things in and really kind of commit to it, there's an opportunity for him to take a run at the championship here this year. So we'll see what happens with Cameron, but nonetheless, give him a check mark for a fantastic run in New Orleans. We will cap off S2, the semi-pro category, with a shout-out to a fantastic run for Devin Smith-Harden for TB Kart Indy, his first Pro Tour podium on that TB Kart. Actually, the whole TB Kart team had a good time this particular weekend, but hats off to Devin for turning things up from Saturday to get on the podium on Sunday.
And it almost didn't happen because I believe the shifter linkage broke as he was coming around the last corner, stuck in what I believe was third gear. I think he said
third gear.
So
last lap, I think.
Last corner, I thought. Yeah. So he got very, very lucky. But congrats to him. And one more about Egger. That RPG driver development. They work on their off track stuff. So we'll see what happens there.
I'm gonna beat him down for sure.
Just like I do on the basketball court.
There it is. Oh, wow. Dude, you're just dropping them. I like it. S4 and S4 Supermasters. We get ready to cap off the race report from the Winter Nationals. Out of the box, David, honestly, I think you and I both believed that Jordan Muster was going to sweep the weekend. He looked so good on Friday and throughout Friday in practice. Puts the car on the pole, wins the pre-final on Saturday, was walking away to the Saturday race win, broken rear bumper. From the pictures we saw, it looks like a part failure. Looks like it potentially just wasn't welded the way it probably should have been. He ends up losing the victory and hands it over to Jimmy McNeil, former 2-time champion in the S4 category, who edges out 2006 champion Ryan Kinnear for the win. Sunday, what's going to happen? Muster's going to come back and lay it down and win, right? Didn't happen, did it?
No, Kinnear, jumping over to the DKC Sody kart tent. No testing. He hadn't hadn't been in a kart probably since Supernats, I believe, is what he told us. So
that's what he said.
Basically took Thursday, Friday, Saturday to get ready for Sunday. And Sunday he came out and definitely showed that he's going to give Musser and the rest of the field a lot of competition.
Yeah, good run for Ben Schermerhorn as well, able to get onto the podium on Saturday, and both Evan Batt and Nathan Stewart adding to the mix. They were really good additions to the program, each placing fourth on their respective days, Saturday and Sunday. Let's go to Supermaster now to cap off of the race report. Just, man, you know what? Awesome battles all weekend long. That's what we love about these Masters categories, because there is the race respect. There is that racecraft we're looking for, but they race hard, and the passion for the sport is obviously still there. John Crow sweeping the first day to get his first SCUSA Pro Tour victory. Mike Jones, national number 2, who had won the pre-final, actually got a 5-second penalty for a very visible jump start.
No.
Yep, a 15-second or 10-second creep.
It was not that visible. Come on. I think they called it from the SCCA race, right?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, there was a corner worker over at the SCCA race a mile away that called that creep. Never mind. I'm not going to say it. He ended up finishing second in the race, though, ahead of two-time defending champion Robert Marks. Marks came back on Sunday, though, wins the pre-final and wins the pole and the pre-final. Got to give it up for the old man. I'll tell you, Marks he's got no quit in him. I love that.
No quit at least on this year, because he kind of mentioned on the podium that he might be getting too old for this shit. So I really don't.
Well, what if we have Super Masters?
We could do that. We could do that, but yeah, anyway, hopefully, he said he's 57 now. So I hope he can go another 3 years and make it to 60 years old. That'd be really cool to see.
Yes. I love that too. Anyways, yeah, so in the race itself, though, Marks ends up rolling back into third. Mike Jones and John Crow pull away for the battle. And, we're expecting, hey, you know what? This is going to be this great battle between Jones and Crow. In the end, doesn't happen. Jones really was just absolutely perfect on Sunday.
He was. It was a great recovery from his little mistake he made on Saturday. So, yeah. And I thought he had won last year, but this was his first Pro Tour win. So add that to the Supernats win. Jones is now 2 for 3 in the last 3 races. So it's pretty good.
Yeah. Phoenix should be interesting. Again, that is the wrap-up. That's the race report brought to you by the Mazda Road to Indy, presented by Cooper Tires. David, let's cap this thing off. This was a long one. We're already past, over an hour long. This has been a good broadcast. Let's do the EKN Trackside Live race calendar, because you and I are going to be hitting the road again. We have about a week off. Well, I'm actually, as we talk, I'm here in St. Petersburg for the Verizon IndyCar Series opener and the Mazda Road to Indy opener this weekend. So let's have a look where you and I are going. The EKN Trackside Live race calendar brought to you by Bell Racing USA. We got a doubleheader on the March 23rd, 24th weekend, David. I'm in Texas at Alan Rudolph's Speed Sports Racing Park in North Houston. The Texas Pro Kart Challenge gets underway. You're heading to Mooresville.
Mooresville, baby. Ready for the WKA Manufacturers Cup Series. Getting back into action, having been off since the Daytona Kart Week back in December. So it'll be good to go back to Race City, USA in the first of 2 stops this year.
You're back at it. I actually get a weekend off. You're heading to the USPKF, the United States Pro Kart Series opener in Ocala Grand Prix. We did Ocala once this year. You know where to eat now. It's pizza, burgers. I've told you about it, dude. You're going to enjoy it.
I'll be mapped out. Definitely good on the food situation down there.
And there's Waffle House, too.
Waffle House, and then the hospitality by George and his staff down there would be great to go back down there, because I haven't been down there in probably 9 years. I think 2009.
That's April the 6th, 7th, and 8th, and then the following weekend you and I will reconvene up in Sonoma, California. It'll be in and out all day. Challenge of the Americas, the finale up in Sonoma, California. Sim Raceway Performance Karting Center, the Rock Cup program. Gained a little ground from round 1 to round number 2, with Rock Cup getting their regional program going up there. They're kind of their club program at Sonoma going, I think, next weekend. They're potentially going to have some more drivers come out to run as well. But David, you and I back to Sonoma for the Challenge of the Americas finale.
That's another great area where we can get some good food, some good wine for those who like wine, and
like me.
And that race, being the finale, it's great because we're going to see the championships decided, and we're going to see who's going to be heading to the Rock Cup International Final. With all the rock classes getting tickets to go to Italy in October.
Elbows up. Time to win a championship. Hopefully we'll see some good racecraft there as well. Okay, Dave, let's wrap up this edition of the debrief. The SCUSA Winter Nationals kicking off the 2018 SCUSA Pro Tour. All in all, I thought really was a great event. You look, the event itself, the track, the excitement, some amazing racing. We had new winners. Those are the positives you can check off. There was some negatives. Obviously, there was X30 Junior was just a mess again. The chaos, the starts, the wrecks, just lack of racecraft. That's something that's going to be a topic of its own. But if you pull that out, overall, a pretty good race weekend with really some tremendous racing in a lot of the categories. Micro so good, X30 Master, the S4 classes were strong. Some good, two driver battles up front, and some drivers understanding more race strategy in terms of pulling away. For me, there's just lots of great stuff to check off.
Without a doubt. And adding to that, other than S2, I think a lot of the categories have a good mix of championship contenders. So, as we head to the Spring Nationals, we're going to be looking at that a little bit more in the week or two prior to that event. So, because every time you're going to the Pro Tour race, you're always thinking about championship. And especially for those who were so successful at NOLA, the Spring Nats is just going to be that next step towards putting themselves in the hunt by the time we head to Newcastle.
Yeah, essentially a month away from the Spring Nationals in Phoenix. It is the first weekend of May. I'm going to start wishing and crossing my fingers for a May cold snap in Phoenix. And by cold snap, I mean 85.
Well, yeah. No, 85, 90 is good. It's when they get up to 100 and 105. That's when you don't want to be there. And,
the only problem, David, is in our announcer's tower where we'll be setting up the Cooper Tire Broadcast Center. I sit right underneath the air conditioning vent. I'm gonna have a hat, a sweater, a blanket,
a toque,
pants,
a scarf,
and I gotta walk outside in 100. Toque, a scarf. Yeah, it's God. It's good. We gotta figure something out. That air vent hits me right on top of my head.
You've been a whiner about this cold stuff, man.
Dude, it's cold. It's just cold.
I think you can handle it. You know what you need to do? You need to get out of the chair and actually do some stretching and exercising, or just go outside and announce. Wireless mic. Done. We're going to put your butt outside. I'm going to sit inside.
Yeah. On top of the scoring container, like a skillet pan. Toss a little butter down there and saute me. All right. Anyways.
Well, you don't quite have a tan yet, so maybe that might be a good time to start.
Listen, Frosty. You were the whitest person at the race this past weekend. You know that, right?
I know. Now I'm the reddest.
You were standing in one of the corners, and the kid wanted to pull off. Figured it was the last lap because he saw your white
flag lap. Yeah.
At least
pretty bad.
At least you didn't make a mistake calling the white flag lap as the checker flag lap.
I did not. That would be you. And I can't wait. I'm going to be editing all the race clips from this weekend tomorrow. I'm going to cut that right out. I'm going to put it up on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and be like, the greatest of all time, the Velvet Fog, Rob Howden calling the white flag lap.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll cap off this edition of the episode of the EKN Debrief by asking you to send in your resumes if you'd like to be the new managing editor of ekartingnews.com. Or Howden at HowdenMediaGroup.com. It's not that hard of a job. Even David can do it.
Even a monkey can do it. That's right.
David, thank you so much, buddy. It was a great weekend. We had, again, away from the track, some awesome food, great pizza, one of the best burgers I've ever had in New Orleans. If you haven't been there, Company Burger. How good was that?
It was amazing. I'm scoping out other different burger places. I went to one here in town on the way back, so it wasn't quite the Company Burger level, but it was all right. So now every time we go down to NOLA, we definitely have our eats with Moe's Pizza. We got the Company Burger, And then Saturday, we just roamed the paddock for gumbo and all that other type of food that's down there.
It was good. Hey, and I also went to Ancora Pizza on Sunday night. I was trying to go back to the other location for a company burger, but I ended up at Ancora Pizza, full Neapolitan pizza place, wood-fired oven. That was badass. That was, again, that's another one that we can check off as well. Well, I think we'll have to start doing the previews going into here, telling guys where to eat. Or, you know what? No. I don't want anybody eating where we eat, Dave.
If they don't listen to the podcast, then it's their own fault for not knowing where to go eat.
I do not want to have to stand in line because someone's eating at our place. Does that sound good? All right.
If they want to eat with us, if they want to eat there, they got to eat with us.
Well, you know what? It was a good edition of the podcast here, folks, here on the EKN Radio Network. We added a bunch of minutes with David and I spouting off about racecraft and pushback bumper. That is going to spur its own podcast likely next week. We're going to get things dialed in. It'll be that next week or the week after. We're going to kind of get a couple people together and do a podcast just on racecraft and just on pushback and just what it takes to be a driver. We have a series coming out as well on EKN. I've got some veteran drivers, some well-respected drivers that are going to write their thoughts on the art of racecraft. Look for that coming up on ekartingnews.com. On behalf of David Cole, folks, my name is Rob Howden. Thank you for joining us for another EKN Debrief here on the EKN Radio Network.